Good evening, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us here at the Blue Lotus Meditation and Mindfulness Center for our bi-weekly guided meditation and Dharma Talk live stream. I am very delighted to have you all here with us this wonderful evening. Today is July 10th, 2023. And it's a little after 6 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone. And wow, what a very wonderful summer this is really turning out to be. I don't know how yours is. I hope it is very well. Today was our very first day for the Teen Mindfulness Retreat. So it's a 5-day event. And what a bunch of wonderful, delightful young people are in attendance this year. You know, it's just never ceases to amaze me, the resiliency and the compassion and the willingness and the openness for our young people who just want to grow, right, to explore mindfulness. And so I am very delighted to be a part of their journey each and every year. Absolutely. So tonight's Dharma talk will be on the 5 aggregates of of clinging. So if we recall Buddha's second noble truth, right? The cause of suffering is attachment, right? Sometimes stated as desire, but attachment or clinging, right? And so there are 5 aggregates that we can explore tonight. We'll talk about those 5 aggregates. We'll explore them a little bit. You'll have time to ask questions either now or on a replay, and I'll be more than happy to go over them or any questions that you may have. But before we begin the actual Dharma talk, we will start with our wonderful guided meditation. And tonight's guided meditation is acceptance for where you are. It's an important part of trying to avoid the clinging, right? That increases our suffering. So accepting where we are is really a first step in acknowledging that, oh, I am suffering, and helping to let that suffering go. So go ahead and allow yourself to get into that nice, comfortable position, whatever is comfortable for you. Some like to sit up, some like to lay down, but go ahead and take that moment to settle your body into whatever position works best for you. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open with a soft focus, looking downward a few feet in front of you. And breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And while you're there, you're invited to allow that half smile to rest on your face as well. Allow your spine to lift and your shoulders to soften. And soften your belly as you continue to settle in. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. Wonderful. So let's meditate on accepting where we are right here and right now. Go ahead and bring some warm attention to any emotions that you may be feeling in this present moment. They could be joyful emotions, feelings of uncertainty, or even feelings of just neutrality. Whatever you're feeling right here, right now, is where you are. And then with those feelings, for the next few moments, just allow yourself to let go of any judgment associated with what you're feeling. Accepting only what you feel as you feel it and only as it is. Breathe in, pause, and breathe out. Good. Now, go ahead and just allow some kind awareness to any physical sensations you're experiencing. Some of these sensations simply could be how cool or how warm you are, maybe some air blowing against your skin. Or perhaps you're a little hungry, or maybe there's a little cramp in your foot. But whatever those sensations you're experiencing right now, right here, is where you are. And so then for these next few moments, let go of any judgment associated with those physical sensations and just accept those sensations as they are and only for what they are. And breathe in, pause, and breathe out. We know that whatever we're experiencing, whether it's positive, neutral, or negative, is temporary and won't last. And that impermanence helps allow us to accept where we are right here and right now. Wonderful. Go ahead. You can begin to open your eyes slowly if you choose, and be sure to reorientate yourself before you stand up. Sometimes our legs get a little numb sometimes, and standing up, well, may not be the best thing right away. So allow some feeling to get back into your legs. I've done that before. Very good. So, as we consider the 5 aggregates of clinging this evening, I'll just kind of relate to you a personal story of mine when it comes to this. Not so much now, but um, certainly well up into high school, and even a few years after that, back in my early 20s or whatnot. Um, One of our, probably, quite a few people out there reliving those glory days from high school or something. And I was no different. I had those, back in the day stories. And one of them that really um, sticks in my mind was I actually scored um, a winning goal in a soccer game. I would think I was in 6th or 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. I don't know, maybe not 8th grade, but 6th or 7th grade. So what was I, like 13, 14 years old, something like that. And it was the only game of of that match on both sides. So the score was 1-0. And I let that live with me forever. It's like, I'm a great soccer player. I mean, I guess I was no Pele, but it was my claim to fame for a little bit, but I was living there, right? I was letting that moment define me 6, 7 years after it occurred, right? Very long time ago. And so kind of living that, right, is clinging, right? It's holding on to an event that, well, is long overdue, right? It's time to retire that particular event. I still remember it, obviously, but it is not um, it doesn't hold the importance as it used to back then when certainly growing up, your adolescence, you have to try to find something, I suppose, right? To try to um, make it through the day, through that tough time. So that was one of my um, living in the past stories, right? Clinging on to something. Why could I not do that now? At 50 plus some years old. It's been a while since I played soccer, so it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But the 5 aggregates of clinging. So, what really drives suffering? And we can think about it, and certainly that's been well explored, um, with the Buddha and um, you know all of the other Buddhist scholars, throughout the centuries afterwards. And form is the first one. So form is simply the material image, right? Or that impression of an object. In form is the aggregate of form is corresponds to the material object itself, right? A pen, holding a pen, it has form, right? But not only that physical object, but it also refers to our bodies, right? Our bodies as well. And specifically, the aggregate of form um, includes uh, the 5 senses, right? So our ears, our eyes, nose, tongue, and our body itself. So those 5 aggregates, excuse me, form uh, the form aspect of clinging. And the corresponding physical objects, that sense as well, right? So sight, sound, smell, taste, and again, tangible object, right? I'm holding this pen, or I have some old coffee in this mug. So coffee, right? That's cold. It has form. It has a taste to it. It has a smell to it. It has a touch to it, hot or cold. So that is form. And actually, the hot or cold would kind of go down to um, ties us very nicely into the second aggregate, which are sensations, right? So the aggregate of sensations or feelings, right, is of three basic kinds, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, right? Or maybe we say a positive or a negative or neutral sensation. So this cold coffee, it has a sensation, right? Kind of elicits um, a tone or a sense of pleasure. Is it? Some people like cold coffee. Some people do not. Some people could care less either way, and that would be a positive or a negative or neutral experience or expression of sensations. So when an object is experienced, right, that experience takes on that one of those emotional qualities, positive or negative, right, or even neutral. Right? Remember, when we are approaching this with mindfulness, though, we do want to try to maintain that non-judgment. We can still say things taste good, things don't taste good. Right? It's how we explore the world or gain an understanding of what's going on around us. But then the third aspect of that 5 aggregates of clinging, right? Perceptions. And perceptions can vary by individual to individual, right? Think about some things that you perceive. And the function or the purpose of perception is to turn an indefinite experience into a definite experience, recognized and identified experience. Right? It's the formulation of a concept, good, bad, neutral, right? Of about an idea, of an object, or a particular experience. Right? My perception is this cold coffee is neutral. It's okay. Right? My perception of this cold coffee is good. It's positive. It's a hot day outside. I may not want to drink hot coffee. So my perception is based off of those sensations, positive, neutral, or negative, which is based off of the form of the object, right? The coffee itself. So the fourth one is the mental activity of those formations, right? Mental activity or those formations themselves, right? So this here is the aggregate of mental formations, may be described as a conditioned response to the object of experience. So that's important, conditioned response. It's not just the impression created by that previous actions, right? But it's also the response here and now, motivated and directed in a particular way. And sometimes, depending on what it is, in Buddhist philosophy, there's certainly reincarnation, right, that we consider. So some of that consideration can be habitual energy stored up from any one of our previous lives. A little expanded concept right there. But in short, right, what does that mental activity mean? In short, it's just simply that mental formation or volition, right, has a moral dimension to it, right? Perception itself has a conceptual dimension, and feeling has an emotional dimension. So now we're getting the mental activity that is associated with any one of these previous aggregates: perception, sensation, or form. So there's 5, right? That was only 4. So the fifth one, the fifth aggregate for clinging, right, is consciousness, right? So we know that both the eye and the visible object, right, are the physical elements, right? Therefore, they're not enough to just produce an experience by themselves, right? It's only with the co-presence of consciousness together with the I and the visible object where it produces an experience. We have to be aware of it. We have to have a consciousness, right? A leaf blowing against this mug isn't going to have an experience, right? It's not going to be able to be aware of, the coffee mug itself or inside. So similarly, it's with our ears and nose and tongues and body that we need to have that form on the outside, right? Those parts of our bodies, in order to have that consciousness. They kind of go hand in hand, right? Consciousness is therefore an indispensable element in the product of experience. We have to be aware of it, right? We have to be aware of it. There could be something happening far away. We may be conscious, but we don't experience it because our form is not there. That incident can be happening over there, but we're not aware of it, right? So the consciousness is not available to it, right? So consciousness is simply the mere awareness or sensitivity to that object. And then when the physical factors of experience, right, the eyes, for example, and visible objects come into contact, and when consciousness always becomes associated with those physical factors of experience, right? A visual consciousness arises. Right? We have to see it. We have to kind of be with it. We have to be aware of it. Our consciousness has to be there. So it's not just a personal experience either, right? The way that our personal experience is produced is through the functioning of 3 mental factors of experience, right? Aggregates of perception and mental formation, right? So what is mental formation? What are they? What are we talking about here? Eye consciousness. My eyes have to be able to see that object. Ear consciousness. Have to be able to hear. Nose conscious. Maybe it has a particular aroma to it. Tongue. Maybe I taste it, right? Body consciousness. Some type of feeling. Mind consciousness. Awareness, right? So with any, mind consciousness, right? So we have to have our awareness of that, of ourselves, our being, our conditioned state of existence. So these are the 5 aggregates of, of clinging. Sorry. So again, kind of recap, right? Form, got to have an object, right? Body, it's continuous. That's pretty much what we think about. Object itself, right? Us or another object. Could be a book, right? The sensations, the feelings to that particular, of that object, right? Right? Is it good? Is it bad? Right? Or is it neutral? And then our perceptions that are derived from those sensations, from that form, right? We have a certain perception of how that object is to us. If we like it, we cling to it. If we don't like it, it's usually a little bit easier to let go, but sometimes we have to even consider that, right? Even if it's a negative experience, that can still affect us, right? Traumatic events is a prime example of clinging, right? Someone with PTSD, for example, they are no longer in that situation, right? But yet they still feel those sensations, right, in their bodies. Right? So it doesn't have to be, a positive experience for us to cling on to it, or even a neutral experience. We still remember, something that was maybe non, threatening or non, enjoyable or something like, or, not something super exciting in our lives, we can still hold on to it. Maybe driving to grandma's house and 6 hour car drives across the state or whatever it is. You may remember it, right? May have those experiences of those little, I remember how being so bored in that car, right? That's a sensation of displeasure, right? Or even indifference to some degree. And then the mental activity, right, of those formations, right? Is it, our volition, has a moral dimension. And it's perception of that conceptual dimension, and feeling, again, having that emotional dimension. And then we need to be conscious of it. Our consciousness needs to be aware. If we're not aware of something, we can't have an attachment to it. If you've never had dragon fruit or lychee or rambutan, you can't have an attachment to it. If you've never had those fruits. So those would be the 5 aggregates of clinging. So something to consider, as you explore mindfulness. Why are you clinging on to something? Does it fall under that positive or negative or neutral aspect of your mental formations, of the senses? So something to consider. We can talk more about this if you like. We always have our different sanghas that we meet. You're always welcome to expand on this with us if you choose, and we're always delighted to meet with all of our practitioners whenever they are available, and we are available as well. We always have a lot of time together, and we're always delighted to. It's one of the benefits of being a virtual sangha. Not only do we have in-person events, but we have such a wonderful online presence as well, especially in these trying times. Sometimes it's hard to get out. There are some communities where there may not be a Buddhist sangha or gathering suitable for people. So we're delighted to meet with you whenever you have questions about, how do I advance mindfulness? How do I understand the Dharma that Buddha has taught? So our next Dharma talk will be on the 24th. So bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. Some months we have 3. It just depends. So it's just every other Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time, roughly from 6 to 6:30. Sometimes we go over. We have our wonderful mindfulness and meditation retreat on the 30th as well. So July 30th, and go ahead. That's an in-person event. That's not a virtual one. We will have some virtual retreats coming up, usually in the autumn, once the weather over where we are kind of changes a little bit. So you're more than welcome to, if you're in the Brainerd Lakes area, to certainly sign up and join us. We also have our couples retreat, right, from July 21st to the 23rd. That is also an in-person event. You are absolutely welcome to join us for that. Think about why you're in a relationship, right? Sometimes relationships can, especially in this day and age, right, with a lot of things going on, sometimes it can be a little bit trying, and maybe we lose our way with our partners or even ourselves, which can cause suffering in those relationships. So you're certainly welcome to come join us if you can. We'd love to have you. It's all inclusive. We also have our weekly sanghas. Every day of the week except Saturdays and Sundays, we have something going on, even though we have some private opportunities to meet. But if you want to meet in a group in a weekly Sangha, we have our healing Sanghas, veterans Sanghas, new beginnings, a rainbow Sangha, a welcoming Sangha, and our teen Sangha. So we'd love to have you sit with us. Just register on our page. Go to our offerings and scroll down and look for registration. Find the one that suits you best. One or many, doesn't matter. We always delighted to have you sit with us, for about an hour via Skype. And we just talk and heal and go over the Dharma, do some guided meditations in a smaller group. And with that, my friends, I want to thank you all for spending some of your precious time with me this evening. I know your time is precious and valuable. And so I do greatly appreciate you spending time with me and watching and learning the Dharma and educating yourself to help live that mindful and more balanced life. And so until 2 weeks, right? July 24th. Till then, my friends, brothers and sisters, I wish you all a wonderful evening of peace, ease, and well-being.